where we showcase the exemplary practices from the top schools, top pre-primary and primary schools across India. Earlier in the session, remember we had Shiv Nadar School and other country schools. And today we are here to interact, to learn and converse with the key people from Udayachal pre-primary and primary school, the most prestigious school. Before we could begin the session, I would invite Mrs. Purnima Contractor to talk all about AECED and the upcoming World Conference. Over to you, Purnima ji.
Thank you, Maalathi. Welcome, everyone. Bhishma, could you please share the screen?
Is it visible?
No. Yes. Okay. So that's us, AECED, Association for Early Childhood Education and Development. Next. Well, everybody has a history. So do we. We were established in 1964 and were known as the Indian Association of Preschool Education, IAPE. We started in New Delhi in Lady Irwin College Department of Child Development in the presence of our first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru. Well, we aimed at empowering concerned adults through professional development workshops and refresher courses. Yes, next. IAPE was supported by NCRT, government functionaries, and eminent educationists. We were invited by various committees related to child welfare, ICDS, Anganwadis, Balwadis. In 2008, IAPE evolved into a new avatar, which was AECED, and we were registered under the Societies Registration Act. Our mandate now, it includes a right-based approach. And besides teachers, we work with all the other stakeholders in early childhood education, and we provide guidance for holistic child development in the 21st century. Well, our work with government functionaries have been at the state level and at the national level. In the national level, we were part of the nationwide group to give feedback on the draft NEP. Next. Our national office, AECED's national office, is situated at the Department of Human Ecology, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai. And as you can see, we have a plethora of activities happening at the national, where we do advocacy on national policies. Our conference is coming up. We'll talk to you in a few minutes. We have webinars for parents. We share teacher resources. We acknowledge good practices and practitioners. Like we are acknowledging today the practices of Udayachal pre-primary school and primary school. And of course, we are opening branches all over the country. Now we have branches spread all over. It is statewide, and you can see we have various activities, but I want to emphasize on the professional development workshops for early childhood educators. In 2021-22, the Mumbai branch offered 9 professional development webinars, and our theme was pedagogical approaches. We have very successfully completed 6 of them, and the last 3 are scheduled for this month and the next. These webinars are being conducted by all experts in the field. We have one coming up on the 18th of December, Socio-Emotional Learning in Early Years by Monisha Diwan. Then on the 8th of January, we have Innovative Practices Teaching to Thinking, under which we will have the Reggio Emilio approach by Archana Jamdar, and inquiry-based approach by Priyanka Contractor. And we will be ending the whole series with Creativity in Early Years, Art and Music by Jayanti Roy on the 18th of January. So if you wish to join us, you're most welcome to contact us. Next. Well, we have 2 e-newsletters, which we send to all our members. In case your institution has any good practices to offer to share, please do so. We will share it in the e-newsletter and let the whole world know. Next. With Balamandir Research Foundation, Chennai, we have this outreach program for parents, which is called Joy of Parenting, where we use the LTP calendar, which is a pictorial tool developed by Hinks Delcre Center, Toronto, and it is adapted to our Indian conditions. If you want it for your schools, please contact us at the emails given. Next. Well, we offer membership, which are tenured for institutional and for the individuals, and the form can be downloaded from a website. We have 1 year, 3 years, and 5-year memberships. Next. And now coming to our World Conference. We are very, very excited about this because it's the first time AECED is conducting a World Conference. We are doing this in collaboration with mobile creches, and the topic is reimagining and reshaping early childhood care and education in the new normal. And the dates are 27 to 29 January 2022. Next. We will have 3 days of inspiring speakers from the national and international speakers. We will have presentation of insightful research papers, and there will be professional development workshops. And of course, networking with thought leaders and early childcare professionals from across the world. Next. Well, our registrations are opening tomorrow. The registration fees are mentioned there. And if you wish to send an abstract for the poster or the paper presentation, do that as soon as you can, because 10th December is the last date. And if you wish to go in for membership, the forms are available on our website. And those opting for membership will get a complimentary offer of 3 months membership for 21-22 and the entire year of 22-23. This is a complimentary offer which we're giving for our conference. Next. So please come join us for the PDP programs and for the conferences. And our contact details are over here. You can call us up. I'm Purnima, contractor. Grishma is our admin person. And we hope to see you over there. Now over to Maalathi to take you through a very, very exciting session with Udayachal. Thank you, Maalathi.
Thank you, Purnima ji. Thank you for the wonderful presentation about AECED and about the exciting news, announcement of the exciting news about the upcoming virtual World Conference. I'm sure all those educators and the schools who haven't done the membership will do it at the earliest, and you can also submit your papers. This is going to be the first of its kind and first time for early childhood educators to do the paper presentations. Normally, you don't get the opportunity. Those who are watching this, kindly make use of this opportunity, present papers, share all that you have gathered and which is going to benefit the children across the globe. Thank you so much. Today, it's an interesting day. Today, I truly feel honored and humbled, humbled in the presence of our dear, most respectable and adorable woman in the country, Smita Ben, fondly called as Mrs. Smita Godrej Krishna. I'm really excited to be amidst, like every one of you who's watching over here, to talk to her, to understand what the journey of Udayachal is all about. How did she start this journey, and why Udayachal still steals the name in the pre-primary industry? Welcome you, ma'am. Welcome you to the webinar series.
Thank you very much for that, for a very kind introduction. I'm myself very happy to be here today because I think children are our future, and we are very fortunate that we are surrounded by children who give us joy. We learn so much from them, and more than us teaching them, I think they teach us much more.
Yes.
So,
I heard that the journey started in 1955. Would you mind taking down on a time trail to tell us, how did this started, and then whose vision was this to start this beautiful school of yours?
Yes. So first, I'd like to start by saying we're really fortunate to have the kind of principals and teachers that we have. I know that everybody was not, teaching is not always the first choice in professions, but I think over the years, teachers have come to realize the great value that that teachers have and how they can mold character and the future lives of youngsters. So I really want to start by thanking our teachers and principals. Our school was founded in 1955 on the 15th of August, when my grandfather, Pirosha Godrej, bought a tract of land which was outside the municipal limits of Bombay, the Bombay municipal limits. And at that time, it was so wild. We had panthers, deer, we had all sorts of, it was really a wild place. And to buy this land was something that most people thought that was a crazy idea on the part of my grandfather. But the person, luckily, who was selling it, he said he wanted to sell the tract of land as one piece. He didn't want to divide it. And my grandfather then borrowed money. Of course, he didn't have that kind of money in those days. Borrowed the money from a close friend, Mr. Saklatwala, who was in the bank, and bought this land. And because it was out of the municipal limits, my grandfather, all the employees' children were just running around. They weren't doing anything. They weren't engaged in anything. So it was his very dear wish that we start a school. And my father, Nauroji Godrej, and my mother, Sunuben, they took it upon themselves and they started the school with my mother's teacher, Kuvarbai Vakil, who had her own school called Pupils' Own School in Pune. And she had 12 students over there, one of them being Mrs. Gandhi herself and the Gandhi, Vijay Lakshmi's children and so on. So there were a group of 12. And it was one room, that school was one room, Pupils' Own School. And in the daytime, they got desks. And at night, they put the desks away at the side and they rolled out their bedding. And then they slept in that room. So that was the beginning of Pupils' Own School, where my mother studied for about a year. But then when Mrs. Vakil retired from there, they invited her to start our school at Vikhroli. And so we started in literally one little room. And my mother went with our welfare worker at the time, Aluben, going from home to home, begging for children to come to school. And they would only send the boys in those days. They wouldn't send any girl because they said girls' place was in the home. And we started with about 5 children. And these 5 children were bathed, they were clothed, they were fed, they were taught. And slowly, when the parents saw what a change was coming over these children and how engaged they were, then they slowly started sending more children. And we first built our high school. And after that, we built the primary and the pre-primary school. And the pre-primary and primary school was, my father envisaged it always because he loved open air and he loved breeze and he loved all that. So, and he was a sailor. So he said, we must have a school that has a lot of cross ventilation and open spaces for children to run around. And we have kept that because we've seen the great value of open spaces and trees and, surrounded by greenery and so on, makes you also more creative. You can think, you can dream, children can think better. So I think having that kind of an environment has definitely also helped us greatly. Yeah.
Excellent. So, ma'am, when did girls actually got to join the school? It's been really interesting to know about, the story. Actually, I was reliving the moments when Indiraji and then Mrs. Vijayalakshmi's kids were coming to school. And then we could actually visualize from your conversation how the school was set up amidst, the outskirts of Mumbai. So when did actually girls got to get to school?
Girls came at least 8 years later. 7 to 8 years later, they started sending the girls to school, but slowly, yeah. And then, of course, it's grown now. Our school is 3,000 students, both with primary and high school. And yeah, then the parents saw the value of that.
Excellent. In those days, today we talk about the new education policy, about envisioning the pre-primary, all about. But it looks like you've been practicing since the beginning of it. And I've also heard that since you in the earlier days, you had the 4-language formula, which was followed in the school. And
Right.
from the manager to the last person in the,
Gardener, yes.
Exactly. Their children got to, study in the same school. So
yes.
How did you manage the diversity?
Yes, well, it wasn't easy because, as you can imagine, managers didn't want their children to study with a gardener's child or a security. But over the years, when they saw how children blossomed, and in fact, very often children from these backgrounds, more disadvantaged, they shine more than children who come from advantaged schools, from an advantage point, because that's their only hope in life to improve. And we've had children like a security person's son who's become an engineer. We've had our driver's son who's now running a company in Germany. We've had gardeners' children who have, gone into engineering and doctoring, as doctors. So I think now they see the benefit of this diversity, of interacting with all types of people, and all that brings a richness to the school, because every person from every walk of life brings a different angle and aspect to the school. So I think we have been lucky to have founders with this kind of foresight. And we see the great benefit of that today, because opportunity is all that children need. It doesn't matter where you're born or, in which home, but if you get the right opportunity, we can see that they can reach the stars.
Excellent. And then we have also been hearing about the SDGs, the Sustainable Developmental Goals. And then I think yes. I'm going to interact more with the other two key people, about that. But could yes. you tell us that, how did that start? You have been making quite a lot of differences to the environment in your campus. When did that start?
Yes. I think it started, with the freedom movement, when there was not much to be had at hand. And Vikhroli being out in the municipal, out of the limits, one couldn't buy easily. So we just used waste. And then Mrs. Vakil, who laid the foundation of our school, had studied in Shantiniketan. And Shantiniketan's ethos was the same, use waste, emphasis on the arts, music, a huge emphasis on music, because music is really like a brain workout. We see the great benefits for children who have learning disabilities, and even for people who have stress or so on. Music is a great uniting sort of force for a lot of people. And so when we started, all these activities, I think, were art, craft. Shantiniketan was known for its wonderful art. So all that was then brought to Udayachal. And our art teacher was from Shantiniketan, Mr. Singh. And he had a wonderful sensibility and aesthetic, and he's still with us over 40 years. And he has really developed our art program beautifully. So I think that's and the environment, of course, was always something dear to my father, my uncle, and greenery. As I said, my father loved open. So care for the environment was very important to them. So.
Thank you, ma'am. I cannot stop recalling this couplet from the famous Tirukkural, which is, dating back to 500 CE, where yes. Tirukkural wrote in Tamil. I'm going to say this in Tamil. Of course, I'm going to translate this. Yes. This goes this way. This says, Kedil Virichalvam, Mattavai Kalvi Oruvarukku, Maadalla Mattayavai, which means that education is the imperishable wealth. And then all the other wealth, nothing stands before the education. I think, your family has given that wealth to the people, understanding what the country needs or what the world needs. And that's when you said, your people are spread out across the globe doing their best. And there is definitely no difference. The socioeconomic doesn't stand before while giving the education. Thank
Absolutely.
you so much. And then it's been a great learning for us. I understand your schedule. Thank you so much for coming here and then sharing your experiences.
You're welcome.
Hear from your team about what what more they've got to share about the school.
Yeah. And I just want to say that value education is something we stress a lot on. Empathy, kindness, care for the environment, care for property, all these which we really need our students to have and it's woven into their classrooms and their everyday lessons and so on. So I think value is also very much the core of our school.
Which is missing truly today, because we talk about it, we try to create a curriculum for happiness, which is actually painful when we hear. And when we get to know about such good practices, I think the thought process behind the entire series of webinar is this. And then we are very happy that you are here with us to share about it amidst your schedule. Thank you so much. I'm sure that people who are watching across the globe will be benefited by the best practices of your school.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was my pleasure to be on this. Thank you.
Thank you. So that was wonderful, very kind of Madam Smita to join us and then to share her best practices. I feel that we are humbled and honored to have her, as I mentioned it again. Now moving on to the key people who have been with Udayachal for some time. I think, it's time to introduce our two great people who are here, Ms. Binaifer Chhoga, and can we have her here on screen? And Mrs. Bhairavi. Ms. Binaifer Chhoga is the ex-principal of Udayachal pre-primary and primary schools, which are primarily run for the children of the employee of Godrej Boyce Company Limited. I think this was mentioned by Smita Ben as well. She is also an executive member of APER, Association of Primary Education and Research and National Committee. Her educational qualification include a Master's in Child Development and a Master's in Education. Under her guidance, the school has received the AECED International Award from the British Council thrice, and she has conducted various workshops for teachers and parents. She has also contributed articles to the in-house magazine, and she enjoys writing verses. Welcome, Mrs. Chhoga.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, we also have Ms. Bhairavi Dholakia, who has completed her Master's in Human Development from Nirmala Niketan of College of Home Science in 2001. She started her career at Tata Institute of Social Sciences, handling training and research projects in the field of early childhood education. She's joined Udayachal Pre-Primary School as a supervisor in 2003 and has been with the institution since then. She currently heads the ISO 14001 team at school. Welcome, Ms. Bhairavi.
Good evening, everybody.
For all those who have joined us, welcome to the show. For all those who have joined us recently, we are talking about, we are in conversation with the Udayachal pre-primary and primary school heads. They take pride in the all-round development of students, and the students excel in sports, art, music, and besides achieving good academic results in the board examinations. And as Mrs. Godrej said, values are equally important, and they play an important place and role in the curriculum. Environmental issues are also given importance, and the school is an ISO certified school. It is one among the top co-ed schools ranked by the Hindustan Times in the education world. And the school has also received a platinum rating by the Indian Green Building Council. I think that's what environment is all about, and we are excited to have you here, have both of you here. I know there is so much shared by Smita Ben, about how it all started. It was actually getting goosebumps, as some of them mentioned, also talking about the value system, talking about how the importance for music, art, and everything was given. So I would like to, start the question with Ms. Chhoga to understand, what does early years mean to Udayachal, and how do you honor the early childhood?
Okay, right from the very inception of the school, I think the early years meant a lot to our founders. Okay, they've got the pre-primary, primary, and the high school. all three in separate buildings, if you please, and each one has the infrastructure that's absolutely right for that age. So, I mean, with that kind of foresight, obviously they knew that the early years were very important. We had stalwarts like Mishir and Choksi before me, who laid the foundation for the early years and who's really created a kind of trailblazer in the methodologies used in early education. All I can say is the pre-primary is very important because even when we look at the teachers that are there, they are equated with our high school teachers. The management makes no distinction between the salaries of a pre-primary teacher and a secondary teacher, which is very rare and for which I think we are very grateful. And I think it's the right way forward. If the best kind of teachers are drawn into the schools, where would our schools really be?
Excellent. I think you nailed it. This was missing, and this is, I think, one of the important points that all schools, school heads or the promoters must get to hear about it. Teachers paid equally, irrespective of the classes that they teach. I think this is one of the best practices. All schools must, definitely have a checklist, to have a check in their box. So when we were talking about it, how did the 21st century curriculum was envisioned in your pre-primary program? Because we all talk about, every school talks about holistic development. This kind of cliche words are there in every school advertisement. They talk about 21st century, they talk about holistic development. So how was it envisioned in your pre-primary department?
It's rather an all-encompassing question. 21st century skills would include things like creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, communication. It would include, say, soft skills also like flexibility, teamwork, time management. And I think all that has been part of our curriculum since long because it's what the child needs. It's not been different and the skills have not come in today. So when we say these are the skills with which the child leaves school, I think you bring down whatever you can scale down and do it at the pre-primary stage. I mean, it doesn't all have to be at the same level, but surely it can be brought down to a child's level and taught to the child. Time management so simply can be told about what happens if you reach the railway station late. That's it. You understand, maybe through a skit or whatever. So little things, but all the skills are built in. And I think you will get a little more glimpse into this when you see our PPT, when we share the days at Udayachal, because that should answer most of the questions. We'll be happy to answer this again in case I've left something out.
Certainly. I am in fact waiting and looking forward to the presentation as such. But before moving on to it, now I threw this question to Madam Smita as well, and I'm asking you this question. Initially, it was said that Udayachal had the 4-language formula, in your school system. Now, today, NEP also talks about, the influence of the mother tongue, and then it also talks about the 3-language or the 4-language. So how do you think, how is it possible for you? Do you still continue to deliver the 4-language, or what is the kind of a structure you have in school? And then your mother tongue, what is the role does it play?
This is like a burning question today, but there's not really, it's not black and white, okay? There's gray as well in this. Because when we had the 4 languages and we had Hindi, Marathi, Gujarati and English, and they learnt in that medium, okay? And I could see when I was there, I could see that the people wrote so well in their mother tongue, like a standard 4 essay would read like a standard 9 if he was struggling in English. But I think it was brilliant when they studied in their mother tongue. They could express so much better. They could debate at a younger age. They could, share experiences very well in rich language. But having said that, when your medium of instruction is English, not using it also would be like kind of detrimental. We would allow our children to speak in the language when they come in the nursery. Like you can't say, no, now you have to talk in English, but the teacher definitely has to talk in English if the medium is English, for the simple reason that if you're there in school for such a short time, you have to pick up a new language, and language is picked up by listening to it. So there I would say that the teacher must use the language of instruction, and the intent behind the new education policy is amazingly good, I would say. but there would be things they'll need to iron out. Like, for instance, if a child moves from one state to other, if the father or mother have a transferable job, what then? Will they keep changing the mother tongue they have to study in? Or would teacher training colleges churn out good quality teachers in those languages? So there are questions to answer before really I can say that this is the right thing. So I would say yes, studying in the mother tongue by all means is good, but definitely if the medium of instruction is different and higher education is in English, parents opt for it. So in our school, the same thing happened. Over the years, the number of people opting for the Marathi and Gujarati medium dwindled, and they all wanted English because somehow they thought that higher education was in English. So why not give our children the chance to do it right from the start? And we had to unfortunately shut down those mediums of instruction. So currently we are running only in English, but yes, we do introduce Sanskrit also to our children, and yes, they can opt for other languages at the high school level.
Excellent, thank you. I think it's been a very, very practical approach, what you are following at the moment. So I would like to ask, by the way, at this point of time, with the human resource specialist over here, so how do you, get your educators stay on the current, state of development? How do you train them? What is your best practices for your professional development?
So, ma'am, when teachers come into our school system, a lot of the training is on the job. Okay, it's hands-on, it's by observation, it's by actually being in practical situations where they learn from their peers and absorb the school ethos and its methodology. Apart from that, ma'am, we are constantly, our endeavor is to provide, workshops and platforms in liaison with institutes like AECED, where our teachers can attend professional development workshops and upgrade their skills and knowledge. We encourage a lot of in-house workshops by calling in resource people to address the contemporary issues that we face and the challenges that teachers, face in their classroom. So there's a constant, we are in touch with the trends, and there are debates, discussions, a lot of team sharing is encouraged. When any teacher attends a workshop, she makes sure that it is shared with the entire team, and we take what we can learn from each other. And that's how we, I think, stay abreast of what's happening in the field.
That is, thank you so much. Yes, would you like to
add to it? Because not for the pre-primary, but this continues into the primary. So for grade 1 or 2 as well, there is a lot of teacher development programs. And we have meetings across, which are built into the timetable. So standard 1 would meet together, standard 2 would meet together. And there is a lot of cross-talk and ideas are bounced off each other. So well put, Bhairavi. Yeah, we learn from each other, and there is a lot of team work. There was a time when I think I gave each teacher an educator to do, and they had to do a presentation once every month. And there was so much research the whole team did. And at the end of the year, we had just 12 educators we'd studied about and what was good, and comparing it with Udayachal. So things like that help us to grow.
Excellent. So that is leading me to the next interesting question, which is burning in the, amidst all the educators, I can hear it very well. So what is your teacher attrition level? How often, you have to talk about it as well as a human resource specialist? Do you have teacher attrition as well?
You want me to answer that? Okay, I'll go ahead. Yes. Teacher attrition rate is a very low at Udayachal, really low. People have been with us.
How do you manage it?
People have been with us for 20 years, 30 years and all. Again, we have the Godrej family to thank for that, because they take such good care of their teachers. It's an environment which is a very caring environment where people, and of course we add to it by making sure it's like a parivar. It's not, you're not coming as a professional, but also as a family member. So those kind of activities are held even for the teachers, and I think that goes a long way in making them feel part of it. Moreover, there are other things like we are offered housing on the campus, on the Bhairavi campus, which is so beautiful. So I think once your roots are there, you give off your best. There are other perks of being a teacher at Godrej, but yeah, the housing is a big draw, because housing in Mumbai is really, really difficult to find. And when that is given, and plus when the environment nurtures you and you feel happy in the place, you just stay on.
That's beautifully said, because that's what studies say, that psychological safety for a teacher. When a teacher walks into a campus today, what is missing in the schools are teachers miss out the psychological safety, whether I will be here on the job or am I going to be thrown out. Are people going to accept me even if I'm social or emotionally low at times? Are they going to accept me as a person? Am I going to be equipped with the kind of a training that I need? I think that's one important aspect, one important practices of yours, which definitely puts you on a better platform than the others. I think there are a few points which are coming up. Before I could move on to that, I have many questions on your low-cost teaching aids and about your other questions on teachers related to that. Before I could jump into it, how do you involve your parents with the pandemic, given parents' participation is important, both with the offline and online? So how do you involve your parents? Our parents now, teachers are your parivar, they're part of your family. Now, how are the parents? Are they different? How do you treat them? How do you bring them on board? Because without the parents' support, you cannot do much with the children, isn't it? So how do you do that?
So, ma'am, I think right from whether it has been in an offline or an online scenario, parents are our partners in the entire process of teaching and learning, and we treat them as equal partners. Okay, so we have a very open door policy where we encourage parents to be involved with the child's day-to-day functioning at
I think, Ms. Chhoga, you can take it.
Lost her a bit, yeah. We'll wait for her to come back. But so they are our partners in the process, and we couldn't do without them for sure. We have a strong PTA as well, so we take their opinions and we have meetings with them in case they wish to tell us some things, and we definitely look into their grievances if at all there are. But we also constantly have workshops for them. So our special educators, our counselors have workshops. We call in experts and we have workshops for the parents. So when we have such kind of opportunities given to them, I think they also open their minds to a different kind of education, because I know the early years were difficult, but now it has been more streamlined and they accept the way we're teaching. So it's much easier. But definitely they are our partners, and they can say, they are involved in the class trips. They go on the trips with the children. They're involved in the cooking activities. They are a resource people if we are talking about anybody, be it a plumber or a doctor or a nurse, the dentist. They come in, they walk us through their clinics and things like that. So in every which ways, I think they help us out in many, many ways.
Excellent. So, by the way, I think we lost you there.
Yes, sorry.
I think I have to welcome you back again, thanks to the technology again. So talking about technology, before and, not pre-COVID, and then I'm not sure if COVID is still over, so I can't say post-pandemic. So I should call it as pre-COVID and today's time. So how was technology looked at, the early years, and then what do you how do you see technology today? Because all of us as early as educators, we were not keen on giving them giving technology to the children. So how is it being handled now?
Okay, we were, I think, forced to enter a field that we once were very rigidly averse to, and used to say, no way, don't let your child see so much TV, not computer for so long. But somehow this pandemic has taught us that there are many positives also to technology if used in a wise way, if used with, I think, some care as to the time you spend on it. So this digital world has caused our children also to grow in leaps and bounds by opening up a world to them that has hitherto been not there for them. So if the parents choose to show them some videos of places or animals or things, it's opening new vistas to the children as well. So though there are those pros, there are cons with we don't know what would happen with their eyesight. We don't know how much of it is good for them. But all I'd say is they're becoming very good at technology, and they'll not be scared of using it. like we were. I think the teachers were more fearful than the children of entering this new world. They've taken to it with ease. Yeah.
So how do you manage your online classes now during the, the lockdown? Of course, there is no lockdown.
Bhairavi, would you like to take this one?
Yeah.
So ma'am, from virtually no technology to the virtual platform, okay, the shift has been challenging. But I think what we have done is we aim to make our online teaching sessions also as meaningfully engaging as possible with similar kind of experiences that we would give our children in the offline scenario. Okay, so a lot of hands-on, practical, sensory experiences are planned and organized even during the online teaching sessions. So it's not just the 3 hours of learning, as we say, but all the skills that a child will need to be independent, confident, and communicative. We ensure that that's taken care of. Also, what we have done is we have broken down our classes into small groups. So each group has about 10 or 12 children with 2 teachers, okay, which provides for a lot of two-way interaction between the children and the teachers, so that they don't feel that, they're just supposed to sit in front of a screen passively doing nothing. So the small groups have really helped us to build rapport with the children and connect with each child individually.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure that everybody is waiting to see your presentation, including me, to see what you've got to offer and then share, because, probably maybe once this all this lockdown and then the restrictions and movement is all lifted, we would love to visit your campus. But before that, can we have a trip to your campus and then share? Would you mind sharing the best practices that you have?
Surely, ma'am. I'll share my screen. Yes. And Binaifer ma'am shall begin. Ma'am, please let me know when you can see my screen.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
So these are some photographs, not in the COVID times, but pre-COVID, and what school is like and what we feel it should be like for a child. And we'll just run you through
it. Ma'am, is my screen visible
not
to you?
Yet, not yet.
To all those who are watching, have your questions ready. You can type it in the Facebook or maybe share it in the chat box, wherever you are, whichever space that you are in. We would learn.
Should we request Grishma to share?
Ma'am, let me just
try once more.
Yeah, just try once more. Yes,
sure. Absolutely.
There is a slight lag.
I think it's coming.
There is a slight lag, but I think yes, it's on.
Thank you. So we should be taking you through the Udayachal pre-primary school. What you see and in the screen,
yes, ma'am.
Is it full screen? I think our emblem is there.
A slide show mode.
Yes, the mode. Yes.
It's not.
Yeah, it's not.
Maybe right on top, Bhairavi, right on top.
Yes,
left-hand corner.
Yes, just yes.
Don't worry, we can. Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
you can see it now.
So absolutely. So this is our emblem, which you can see at the entrance of the Udayachal school. There's Guruji sitting under a tree with the eastern mountain and the sunrise. So the word Udayachal is a Sanskrit word which means the sun rising from the eastern mountains, and we'd like our children also to rise to a zenith in that manner. These are our founders, like Mrs. Krishna mentioned to you, Shri Pirocha Godrej, who started the school, his brother Adesha Godrej, who started the company. Next, please. Mrs. Krishna's parents, Mr. Nauroji Godrej and Mrs. Sunu Godrej, who really put in their heart and soul to have a school which was of quality for their workmen. It wasn't that my gardener, his son is going to go there, or my worker's son is going to go there. They still wanted something nice for their children. And so they roped in Kuwarbai Vakil, who was like Smitaben mentioned, Sunuben's teacher, and someone from Shanti Niketa. Next. Our motto is Tamso Ma Jyotirgamaya, lead us from darkness to light, the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge and everything wise, I should say. Next, please. These are our buildings. On the left, you see the pre-primary. This is the front side, and the back has an entire playground. Every room opens into the playground, which is another plus. And on the right, you see the part of the primary school building. This is the office area where you enter. So what are some of the salient features of our pre-primary? We have the age groups 3 to 6, nursery, junior, and senior KG. We've always been advocates of entering standard 1, where formal writing takes place only after the age of 6. And the government has vacillated a lot, but we've stuck to 6 right from the time we've, I think, started our pre-primary. School duration when we are offline is of 3 hours. And I'll explain to you that a little. The 3 hours are broken up into half-an-hour sessions, half an hour in each hall and half an hour at a time in the classroom. Teacher-child ratio is 1:25, but every time they go into the halls, there are more teachers with them as well. So these are words that we use at preschool level, but believe me, you will see some of these at work in the classroom. All-round development, which means we do want them to learn. I look at it like this. All-round development is the development of the 3 H's rather than 3 R's. Head, heart, and hands. I love saying that. And I add a 4th H to that, which gives you happy children. And the second one is experiential learning, which means a lot of things are done hands-on. If you actually let them experience and experiment, something to do with cooking, something to do with cleaning, some trip that they've been through, they learn better. Integrated approach, which I would look at in 2 different ways. One is integrated by the kind of children we have. So from all backgrounds, and Udayachal offers admission to every employee's child, which means we just take the child in without screening. So some of them are on the autism spectrum, some of them may have hearing difficulties, some of them may not be able to walk, but they're all part of our classroom, and integrated even subjects. So all the subjects are woven into each other, and that is how we have EVS. Sensory stimulation, which means you stimulate all the senses. So there's something for the ears and something for the taste and something for the eyes. And if you involve all the senses, teaching is better. We use innovative teaching aids, which you will see on the slides. And values like, again, Ms. Krishna put, are very, very important. They are woven into every topic that we do, and they are at the heart of what we teach. Some of it is not taught, some of it is caught by how the teachers role model it for them. Next, please. So like I said, a day would be divided into 3 activity halls and 3 classroom areas. You go to the creative hall, music hall, and apparatus hall. And in between, the child has 1 language class, 1 EVS class, and 1 math. So a day is kind of really holistic, with all opportunities being given to them on a daily basis. Bhairavi will take over from here.
Thank you, ma'am. So looking at some of our activities that are done in all the 3 halls that Binaifer ma'am just spoke about, we start with the creative hall. So like ma'am said, every day the children come to these halls for a duration of half an hour. There are different activities according to their age groups, which are planned for them. There are different activity corners, and you can see a little colorful glimpse of our hall, and the children busily engrossed in doing different art and craft techniques, whether it is to do with paper tearing, sticking, coloring, drawing, lid printing. You know, these are some of the techniques which not only help to strengthen the fine motor skills, but also stimulate the creativity of little children. Here is where you can take a look at the materials that we have been talking about. All the paper that we use in the creative hall is recycled. Old magazines, newspapers, greeting cards, one-sided computer sheets, all these are put to good use for the different activities that we carry out. Paper tearing, a very simple activity. We have a large paper truck. Children enjoy tearing paper, and it's very good for their eye-hand coordination as well. What we do with the paper is that we soak it in water, and then it gets converted into paper pulp. And here you can see the children first pound it, and then we actually teach them how to make small objects out of the paper pulp also. So that's a very good use of all the torn paper that is gathered in our hall. This is an area where you can see the children doing block printing. So there's block printing, lid printing, spray painting, all these activities. The materials are laid out on the tables. We encourage children to be independent, to go to the corner, look out for the material that they need for the activity, and carry the activity out according to the instructions given. We also have clay modeling, which is extremely good for the children, and they enjoy the feel and texture of clay. So once a week, we do try and give them some clay to handle. Here, just to draw your attention to the stencils that the children are using, the animal cutouts, they're made out of used X-ray sheets. Okay, so pista shells, you can see the old toothbrushes. So as many things that we would probably throw away, we try and make good use of it in our creative hall. So you can see the children doing some spray painting here, music hall. So music and movement, like Smita ma'am also mentioned, plays a very integral role in our day-to-day curriculum. Okay? We have a large, spacious music hall, wherein, again, every day the children come in, they learn songs in different languages, okay? Different Indian languages, not just English. Once in a while, we do expose them to a foreign language song as well, because music has no barriers. A lot of movement is encouraged because this strengthens their gross motor skills. Use of puppets. Children enjoy doing little dances, rhythmic movements, and actions. Here you can see children handling musical instruments, and these again are made out of old talcum powder bottles, bottle tops, hair brushes, toilet brushes, injection wires. Okay, so we try and use these materials and make simple instruments out of them, such that each child has access to some instrument or the other. Okay, so the children handle these instruments and they play them with a lot of energy and truly enjoy themselves. Another important thing is that most of our songs are composed in-house. Okay, we don't go by the tried and tested rhymes and songs. We prefer composing our own songs related to the topics that the children are learning about, or the festivals that we are going to be celebrating. So that's again something that is a little different about our music and movement sessions. Here you can see a musical band made up entirely of kitchen utensils. So we gathered some utensils from our school kitchen, and each child was given one, and together they created music and melody. So there's a little kitchen band performing here. And again, the important thing is all the children are given opportunities to handle these musical instruments in different ways. The third hall we come to, that's called the apparatus hall, and it is the most favorite hall of all our children. I can confidently say that. So this is an area of free play. There are different corners set up in the entire hall with block play, puzzles, eye-hand coordination activities. You can see a lacing, stringing activity on screen, and children are free to visit any corner of the hall, and they can choose to play with any material that they like. Okay, again, the materials, if you can see, these are beads which are made in our creative hall by our children with the paper pulp that you saw. We use thread reels, sketch pen covers, you name it, and that's there in our toy hall, and we make some good use of it. These are some rangoli boards, so children have to look at the designs and join the dots. There's another child who is just placing seeds on an eye-hand coordination board. So a lot of emphasis is given to writing readiness activities via the medium of play. So the children don't realize it. To them, it is a lot of fun. They are engrossed doing the activity, but we have planned these activities keeping specific objectives in mind. This is our block play area. Again, blocks of different shapes, sizes, and children love block play. They give a free rein to their imagination and create scenes and structures and jungles and railway stations, markets. I mean, we have seen it all just made out of blocks. Okay, so that's another area that the children love to explore in the toy hall, in the apparatus hall. Puzzle solving, okay, again, problem solving skills, concentration. We make these puzzles out of old calendar pictures. Okay, so we take a scenery from the calendars that we have and we cut them up into a certain number of pieces, mount them, and our puzzles are ready. So these puzzles are there for the children to solve individually or in small groups as well. This is our role play area, the doll's house in the kitchen. Utensils, clothes, something that we see in our homes daily. The children enjoy role play. They take up different roles.
I think there is again a technical error.
Yes,
Ms. Chhoga, can you continue with that?
I can, but she's back.
She's back.
Yes, Bhairavi, you can continue.
You can continue. Yeah.
Okay. Ma'am, can you hear me now?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes. So I was just mentioning this is our role play area, and one important thing that our halls allow for is opportunities for social interaction between the children. Okay, because when the children come to the activity halls every day, we have children from different classes mingling with each other and interacting with each other. So through play, they learn important social skills like sharing, turn taking, and a lot of teamwork also goes into when they are playing with each other. So it is a good ground for strengthening these social skills as well. All three halls that they visit on a daily basis. We now move on to the classroom, and like ma'am mentioned, the three main subject areas that we integrate with the topics that we learn about: language, math, and EVS, and some activities for each of these areas.
I'll run you through that. So language and EVS, we very much want oral expression to be developed, because in the primary, when they write, they should know what they've been writing. So when most of you as preschool educators would be doing that, but there are some small schools where just about anybody without any education in the early years is taking up. So they make them write, and writing initially without understanding what they're writing or even speaking the language is detrimental. We have to go by the order of listen, speak, read, and write. So this is a story session in our library, and the children are listening to a story. They're so engrossed. So they're listening to English being spoken. Thank you, teacher. Next. This is a puppet show being done by the children. So a lot of language in use again. So children who may speak it more effortlessly will be given a turn first. The others listen, and then they also could get a turn later. Next. But of course, initially they have to see teacher doing the puppet show so that they get an idea of what has to be done. So here in the apparatus hall, they are having a puppet show. Next. So now here are some picture top cards. We have these cards that are made and put into plastic so that they are reusable. So you may draw on it, and every child gets one. So it will be near impossible for some of you to even think about this, but our teachers make more than 30 cards so that there is enough for each and for different turns. So in class we use this, but here is grade 1 class in session using similar cards. So whereas oral expression would be what happens at the pre-primary, see at the later years, similar cards would be yours. What do you see in the picture? So these are your nouns, and we place the cards. What is happening in the picture? These are your verbs. Now we place those words. Describe the girl in the picture. So you're picking adjectives. So you're transitioning from similar kind of activities, but to a higher grade of the same activity. Yes, teacher. There are a lot of first-hand experiences of washing. So while children may be in pairs or in small groups, the others would verbalize what is happening. Sometimes everyone is on the floor, and the whole corridor also is used as a washing ground, or even for alpana or drawing work. But sometimes we give small groups. Very important that children and groups are given a lot of activities for social development to take place, because here is where that's happening, by the way. They are cleaning the handkerchief and then they have to say what they did. Yes, next teacher. Here they're bathing a doll. So you learn words like pouring and scrubbing and cleaning. And if you notice, there are boys doing the same thing. So there is no, boys cannot handle dolls and girls cannot take the cars. Everybody gets to do everything and there is no training. And our boys do play in the doll's house very nicely. Our outdoors are a pride and you can learn a lot from there. So here, when the topic of insects is going on, they have magnifying glasses and they're going around looking for the insects. And again, if you will see the transition to class 1. Class 1 is taken outdoors and taught about the trees and the plants, and they learn there as well. So both the schools have their own individual gardens, but they can go to any for the learning experience. We have storytelling sessions outdoors. We have some kind of group games outdoors, and there's lots happening outside in the garden when it's not raining, of course. Next. This is an event that's going on about cooking, but we do have cooking experiences even in the class. What is very important after they've made the dish is to say how they went about it. So first we took this, then we did this, next this happened. So sequential thinking is also developed. So it's a kind of reasoning in their heads and they have to note what they've done. So besides verbalization, it's sequential thinking also and planning. Next picture. There are a lot of field trips, okay? Most schools, they have one picnic a year, which is enjoy and have fun. We, unfortunately for the children, unfortunately for them, don't have such trips, but we have many small trips. So this is to the local post office. They've written letters to the parents in the form of more drawing and just kind of a few words. And now they're posting it. They'll wait for it to reach their homes. So for every topic that they do, not necessarily for every, but for quite a few of them, there are field trips. Okay, they may visit the museum, the stuffed animal section. They may go to places like the zoo and see the penguin enclosure there. They could go to a petrol pump to see how the vehicles are and how petrol is filled, or go to a doctor's clinic, our local Godrej hospital, to see how things happen there as well. So we go on several field trips. Next, please. Here is visual discrimination, which is pre-reading actually, which most of you are aware, but you match the same pictures. Then you have something like what is missing in the above card. Again, all these cards are made, 25 children, but about 30 cards, so that when the children are sitting around in a circle and doing the activities, each of them is doing it. When they want to change the card, they just go to the middle of the classroom, pick up a new card and do it. The teacher moves around, keeping an eye, seeing that everybody is doing it correctly. Sometimes you can get the ones who are very quick at it to write something next to it. Okay, whatever is your picture, if you know, and if we progress to that level, write the first letter out, try and draw that part of the picture out. So you're keeping them busy while the teacher is even observing every child and what they're doing. Next, please. Minute differences is part of visually seeing it. The letters are different, obviously, and if we want them to get there, to see that a T is different from a F and from an L and how it can be changed to a P, then you need to have these kind of experiences to stagger the way they learn and to make sure that they are trained for it. Next, please. These are dominoes. The first one you see is shadow outline. The next one is picture outline. Again, each set is made for a child and 30 such sets are made. Everything is hand drawn by the teachers. So teachers sit in the staff room sometimes and work on it together. They get ideas from each other. Sometimes they get resources from other places like the internet, but whatever it is, after that they've sat and made it. Today it's a quick age. I know we've sat and drawn all these over the years. Today it's like cut paste from the internet, but whatever it is, if that be the easier way out, you could still use that, but you can modify things and, you know, make it different, at least cut it. Don't just stick a square up. Make it aesthetic for the children. Next, please. So here is where we have odd one out, which is an activity more in terms of reasoning now. We saw visual, which was pre-reading. We saw a lot of pre-writing skills in the creative hall. And this is like you have pictures where you identify which one is different and why. Okay, so the first one would have the zebra, which is okay. It is an animal. The others are vehicles, things like that. The children who are on the floor and with work cards, they have a helper drawn, and they have to see which tools of the helper belong to that helper and which one is the odd one out, doesn't or is not used by that helper. Next, teacher. Sequential thinking. Here again, there are cards made. What came first? So these 6 pictures will actually be mixed up and given to the children. They have to think and say, what would come first? Would the balloon break first? Would you blow it up first? Would it be just like that? So they have to lay it out and put it in an order. Next. Now there's audio discrimination. From the music hall and the band in which they played to the rhythm, they clap to the rhythm of the beat. They just say, tell the sounds of animals, birds, whatever they hear in the surroundings, identifying sounds. Then we go to the sound of letters. Each letter is introduced. We learn through Jolly Phonics, but every work card and game is absolutely devised in-house at Udayachal. So here you have first letter pairing, and we have these wires which they can just take across. So papaya and purse or bear and bag, things like that. And they just put the string in. Again, you see on the right, the children are writing out the letters that are missing. So from a progression from a junior to a senior class, they're now able to go to 3-letter words and find out the first sound. Next, please. Again, reading readiness at the higher level. You unscramble words, you have the letters, which would be first, which would be the last sound, which would be the first sound. So you break the sounds and make the word right. The other one is like a kind of memory as well. So you see the cards in there, they're pretty close words because all have the A in the middle. Some of them with the same last sound and only the first letter different. You have to bring it, all these words are thrown and scattered in the middle of the class. You have to search for that word which is missing and bring it. Next, please. So a word search, the pictures are there below. You find that word, circle it. They put an ice cream stick on it to, you know, show the word, or there is a window cutout which they put on it. Match the picture to the word. Again, they can do that. There was a question that popped up. I'll just answer it before I go ahead. What kind of furniture is used in the pre-primary? So we used to have low stools that were stacked at the sides. But right now we have no furniture in the pre-primary because that restricts movement. So each table, the moment you put a child on a table and chair, your activities will change. And the medium of instruction is English, like I mentioned. At least the teacher speaks in English and encourages the child to do so as well. Next, please. Writing readiness. We had a whole host of activities in the creative hall that Ms. Bhairavi took you through, but we also have join the dots. We have move your fingers over the sandpaper cutouts, you know, these are patterns that we would do. If you notice, these are Formica boards that are in use. Godrej used to make furniture with these Formica boards on top earlier, and we used to get that. And the back of that, we sort of painted and used to make teaching aids out of. So nothing is really kind of disposed and thrown away in the dustbin. We make use of a lot of things that are waste. Numbers also, actually we have cards that are made out of Formica, if you notice the 1, 2, 3, 4. And then anything like bottle caps to ice cream spoons to pista shells can be used to do the counting. And so as the child is doing this, again, the teacher is moving around, checking each child. Peer correction is possible too, you know, like if you notice one child has put the 2 upside down. So if this boy would notice, he'd go there and he'd just turn it. So by the by, there is learning even there. Next, please. here they're putting pistachio shells on the number 4. So they're learning where the formation begins from and how to go about it. Also eye-hand coordination. So very many of our teaching aids that we have, we make them multi-purpose. We think, okay, can we have vocabulary building with visual discrimination? Can we have eye-hand coordination with kind of formation of that letter? So we try and use teaching aids for multi-skills, skill building. Next, please. These are some of the number games we've made over the years. And again, each game is typical of a topic. So when I'm doing that topic, I'll take out that number game. When I'm doing rain and water, the raincoat game will come up. So the raincoat has a number. The child has to bring that many number of buttons and put it in the middle of the raincoat. So the buttons are all there in the middle of the classroom. Then the birds, when we're doing birds, we do the same thing. The birds have a number of them. They have to bring the feathers from the middle and push that many feathers in. You can modify it at the higher level and say one more than the number given, one less than the number given. It all depends on the teacher. We give a lot of freedom for the teacher to work for you. When you're doing postman and all, you can use the postcard in the middle. So there are 2 numbers on the postcard and they bring that many pistachio shells. Then you can do which is more, which is less. Okay, or get one less than the number. So they will get 6 and 0 kind of. The egg tray is when we're doing birds and eggs. So in each little cup of the egg tray, there is a number stuck and we have to put seeds into that many numbers. When we have Christmas and we're working on Christmas, we have this Christmas tree with a number 9 on the trunk, if you notice. And there are 5 gifts drawn on the tree. How many more would you need to make the number 9? We have to go get that many gifts. So these are little boxes that we wrap like gifts, and gift wrapping paper is also reused. Next, please. We have our annual days like most schools do. There is cultural programs, there are themes around it. So we have seasons, or we have festivals. We could even have story time. So sometimes it's a story being enacted and lots of other things, but they get a chance to dress up and perform on stage. This performance continues all the way through the primary years, because we put them on stage, not just for annual days, but when it's the class turn to perform a play that has some value. So each class gets a turn to perform for the other divisions, and that's how the stage fear goes away. So they're very confident to go on stage. By the time they're in the 5th, they're not afraid of going up and performing. I remember in college also, I used to stutter because I've never had that kind of exposure. Yes, teacher, next. Outdoor play is there for cross motor development. So these are the kind of cylinders you have for in and out movement. There are some where they can crawl through. There is the jungle gym. There are lots of other things. We have tires hanging from trees, which they use as swings. And each tree, I think, is planted with care. You know, it was a swamp first, but they've actually then gone about planting the trees such that we can learn about the trees. They are shady where the activity things are, so that the children are not in the hot sun. There are other kind of trees. So Sunubhen actually chose the trees. There are large banyans where in between our classrooms, and there are other little trees that are in between, so that there is space for the children to move. And every tree I've learned about after joining Udayachal. I never knew about the laburnum or the cannonball or things like that. We sort of knew the neem and the people. But here is where our knowledge of the outdoors grew. And our primary children, again, I'm transitioning each time because you can see the movement from pre-primary to primary. The primary children would not only tell you about trees and would know a lot about animals and all, but it is beautiful that these children in the primary compete with the secondary schools in all the Kids for Tigers fairs. You know, they have these at the Maharashtra Nature Park, and our children win prizes, even standing up to the secondary school children of other schools, because they learn so much about nature so naturally. Okay, next teacher. I think Bhairavi will now take over because, sorry, I got in the environment a little early, but that's your connect.
I think we've got to rush up because some.
Yes, the last few slides, ma'am. Yes, we just quickly go through it. So we've been mentioning this. We are a part of a township which is ISO 14001 2015 certified. So we are very conscious in our efforts to reuse, reduce, recycle, and encourage resource conservation in every possible way. So, when we practice these in our daily life at school, we also role model these behaviors to our little children. And from an early age, we hope to instill into them the need to care for and conserve our environmental resources. So that is something that runs, a theme that runs right across our school, right from the pre-primary to the high school, where resource conservation and recycling is practiced in a very natural way in everything that we do. You can see children, this is a Diwali time, they're creating a rangoli, but only using leaves, twigs, seeds, branches, flowers. This is, they're doing it with pista shells. So it's beautiful. These are the little ones of our school. They've gotten together and they're creating a rangoli with pista shells. This is a time when the parents had come in to celebrate something, and that was also the different ways in which it's promoted. Man spoke about the Formica boards. So again, they are reusable. Children use the chalk and they can easily be erased, and they can be stored at one place and brought into use on a daily basis. So that's those are our activities. I spoke earlier about our online engagement, some life skill activities, children at home, teacher at home, but as much engagement as possible across the screen is something that the pandemic has taught us to rise to this new challenge and make the most of it. So creative work happening, with vegetable printing and a lot of hands-on activities, even on the online sessions. We had a dress-up day where children spoke about community helpers was the topic. So each one spoke about the helper that they have dressed up as. So language building again happening on the online sessions, science experiments, cooking experiences, the kind of activities that we would have in an offline scenario with the parents' help and support are being continued even in our online sessions. And these are a few glimpses of that. You can see parents, and not just parents, even grandparents, we believe, play a very important role in the formative years of a child's life. So on the online sessions, we organized games for parents. We had a grandparent day celebration where we invited the grandparents of the children on our sessions, and teachers planned simple activities which the grandparents participated in. Not only strengthening bonding, but we want them to feel a part of their child's life, and they were so happy to be on the online sessions and interact with us. So these are a few glimpses of our online sessions. Just a quote, we hope that children at Udayachal feel this way, that it is great fun to come to Udayachal school. It's a happy learning space for them, and their early years, along with a lot of learning, are fun-filled, enjoyable, and memorable. So that's what we hope, actually, like we do. Thank you very much, ma'am.
That's awesome. That's awesome presentation. Thank you, Ms. Chhoga and Bhairavi, for that excellent presentation. I know it's just not a day's work. Most of the schools claim to do such work, but there is so much of meaningful. It's a meaningful activity, and the transition from pre-primary to primary, we could see that, and there were questions on that as well. Before we could actually go on to the question, I just wanted to summarize for all of us who have watched. I really like the idea of the 3 halls where you mentioned about giving them activities on that, and starting to write early, which is detrimental for children. That's been emphasized, and then you start at the age of 6, which is again well emphasized, and which is again one of the best practices for all schools to follow. Then your musical instruments, lovely musical instruments, made out of all that is available, your kitchen band. I think, these are some of the best practice. We all think about, can we import materials from China or UK or from Canada, or how do we get it? And then we are a rural school. How do I get these instruments? How do I make my school more beautiful, learning more beautiful for the children or meaningful for the children? I think you summed it up so well, and it is important for each one of us to learn. And again, I cannot thank enough for the AECED National, for coming out on such beautiful thoughts of, bringing out the best practices in the top schools for all the people across the country to follow such low-cost teaching aids and equipments? And how do we retain teachers? And what is it that teachers need? And how do we work on their professional development? And how do we teach numeracy? So much of variation in teaching numbers. Everybody uses pistachios. If you ask, everybody will say that we use ice cream sticks, we use this. But how do we use it? How do we connect to it? And what is the variation that you have done to it? I think, I'm awestruck by the way learning has been happening in your school. So we have a couple of questions. Thank you so much again for coming here and then taking your time to present it. So the first question, I think, it goes about, it is from FB. They're asking that how did you manage social and, emotional development of children during the pandemic situation, because children were away. So how did you manage that was the question. So who would like to take it up? Yes.
So ma'am, I think before we started with our online sessions, teachers connected with, because for the children, this was a new teacher they were meeting at the start of the academic year of 2020. So teachers actually individually connected with each child and their family, their parents, to introduce herself and to get a feel of, what the child is, what is the home situation like. All this started way before the actual sessions began. Okay. Again, the most important thing that helped us build a rapport and emotionally connect with the child are these small groups that we created. Okay, so in every online session of about 45 minutes to an hour, there are 10 or 12 children. So, the teacher has the time to listen to the children, allow them to share. Okay, and a lot of individual connect with parents, hand-holding them through these difficult times that everybody was going through. A lot of emotional support. Counselors, teachers obviously play the role of counselors. They connected with parents, resolved their queries. On a need basis, they held individual interactions with the children to make them feel comfortable and supported during the sessions. And of course, through our activities, which allowed for a lot of expression.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
May I just add,
please,
that where we just conclude what you said last, and I'll start from there.
Ma'am, the opportunities for expression on the session.
Okay, so even at the primary level, they are given the same way. Okay, and I'll connect to that when you come back to another question. Go ahead. I know we're short of time, very short of time.
No, I think, this can go on and on because, learning the best practices from you, I think it's a 3-hour session or 90-minute session is definitely not enough. I guess we need a day to, understand a little more about what you do. So when we talk about the transition, I think that was a question from most of the sources. So do you stop all these practices at the kindergarten level, or what we call it as the pre-primary level, or how does it go beyond the pre-primary classes or to the primary classes? Do you practice? Say, for example, there was a question on you teach phonics through the kindergarten. So how do you do it when you go to grade 1? Do you have exclusive books for it? What is the kind of a transition? You mentioned about it, the transition, very smooth and seamless transition. How do you make it happen? Because most of the schools struggle there. The transition from pre-primary to primary is the area where most of the children struggle. They are treated like adults. So how do you do it in your school?
Okay, so years ago when the primary used to complain to Ms. Choksi, and I'm going back to my predecessor, saying that they're really not doing much writing. So how can we do so much? So instead of making the pre-primary formal, she turned the primary informal. And going by that, we still continue to work with many games in the primary. So there are language games, there are math games, there are grammar games, so we transition from the simple games to now a little more complex games. But definitely this methodology continues. Okay, listening games are somewhere where we found that children were not concentrating. So you have things where they have to listen and act. So that kind of thing, and it continues. And if they work in groups, again, the social development is taking place, like Bhairavi was talking about social development. Yes, on the online, it may have dropped, it may have certainly. But what the teachers do is go online 10 minutes earlier. That's the time to just talk. The moment the class time starts, But everybody enters, and you won't believe children enter 20 minutes earlier because they want to share something with the teacher. They want to show her something. They want to say what has happened. So the connect is very much there. It's very much there. And the transition in many areas, but I mean, I don't know whether I have the time to talk about so much of the transition.
Okay, there was a question from Swati asking, is the food served to all in the school? That was the question.
Yes, there is a snack. Lunch is not served. They bring lunch from home. But in the pre-primary, a snack is served. The midday kind of snack is served. We make something that's nutritious and something that they have to serve and eat. And so again, it brings in a lot of values at that time. You learn serving others. You learn to eat everything. You don't say no to the vegetables. So a lot of things come into play there as well.
Right. Okay, so that's one more question which is coming up. Since teachers, you mentioned about each teacher making 30, teaching aids, which is definitely a mind-blowing number for each child. So does it mean that the teachers have long working hours?
Yes, they do. They work 2 shifts. So there is a morning batch which comes in and an afternoon batch which comes in. Okay. So the pre-primary work in 2 shifts, the primary work 1 long shift, so that they have similar kind of working hours.
Excellent. So the last question is, how do you, your inclusion policy, how do you deal with children with special needs?
We have a special needs department. We call it the learning ladder. So there are special educators and counselors on that team, and they continuously even have workshops for the teachers because they simply can't handle so many children. So if the teacher is equipped in small way to handle these children, that helps a lot. And every Saturday, we have remedial sessions for the ones who have something like language lags. We have first generation learners many a time. And so the English is not the spoken language at home. And so they need more inputs into the language than the ones given in the classroom. So there are remedial sessions which are conducted by the teachers for a very, very small group, giving them one-to-one attention. That's also done.
Excellent. Thank you so much for spending your precious time with us and sharing the best practices over the years, which has placed Udayachal on top of the list in the pre-primary and the primary classes. Not only there, of course, as a school as such. We are really fortunate enough to learn more from you. Of course, this time is too short. Paucity of time. We need to cut it short at this point of time. But, Ms. Chhoga, finally, what would you like to tell, to all the early childhood educators who are watching out there, your good practices, as an advocate for early childhood education? Is there anything that you would like to share with them?
I think I can only say you teach with your heart, you love, and the child will learn. Teach the child, not the matter. That's what's so important. And the little ones should be happy to come to school. At the end of it, they should be happy. They should be learning. I'm most certainly not saying they should not. And you should push the benchmark as well, but they should be happy. That's the message I would love to leave the others with.
Thank you so much. Teach the child and not the matter, and then teach with all your heart. I think, that's the message that one can ever ask for. And then, that's the important message for any teacher, practicing teacher, or anybody aspiring to be a teacher. Thank you, Ms. Chhoga. Thank you, Ms. Bhairavi, for coming on the show and then joining with us. So everybody, I'm sure that you would have enjoyed this session. There are more sessions coming up, and then stay tuned with the AECED website for more updates, and to our social media page. Also, the registrations for the World Conference are opening up tomorrow. Be ready to register, and then do not miss the opportunity. It is a great opportunity for us not only to learn from India, but this is an initiative of AECED National, where we connect with the best practitioners across the globe. We are going to connect with them, and then post-pandemic, I think early childhood education is definitely going to have a new facet. Let's stay tuned to learn more from it. Do not forget to register. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good evening and a good weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It was our pleasure being here with you, and all the best to AECED for your conference that is coming up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Brinda, for the opportunity.
Oh, it was great, Maalathi. I think both Bhairavi and hi, Bhairavi.
Hello, ma'am.
She's so proud of you.
Nice.
And Binaifer always